Yerp. What up? What up? Welcome to episode 3 of the Straight Bars Podcast. I am your host, Angel. And as always, I'm here to deliver a authentic, true to self New York City experience. And before we get into the episode, I just wanted to say thank you guys for the support. I've gotten some positive reviews, some positive feedback on the first 2 episodes, and I'm glad that you guys have been enjoying it. That's motivation for me to keep going. So yeah, this podcast, Straight Bars Podcast, I wanted to stick around for a long time. So on that note, yes, episode 3, episode tres. In this episode, we're going to be talking about the Bronx and Manhattan, the differences, the similarities, one borough versus the other. Big fight. Not a fight, but the pros and cons of each city, weighing out the different living options. What's going on? Who's really running New York City? You heard? Also, we're going to be talking about sports a little bit. Get into my sports bag. Primarily focused on the Knicks. Yes, the Knicks. It's happening. The Knicks and their run to the NBA Cup. They have been on the road, and it's hard to deny it. We got to show love, and we got to show support. They've been doing amazing. They've been really good as of late. And yeah, also wanted to touch on some things that been happening locally in the Bronx, stuff like that. Anyway, as always, like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. You know what I'm saying? Help your boy get a new pair of Timbs. So share with your friends. Tell a friend to tell a friend, man. We are trying to build a community here. And I keep saying it because that's really what I want out of this podcast. I want to build a community where people are engaging with each other and spitting bars, like breaking bread, because it's hard. It's hard to make it out of New York City. That's why when you hear that saying, if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere, it's for real. So, yeah, Bronx and Manhattan. Let's start there, right? Let's talk about Manhattan first, right? Manhattan is known for being like the center of the city. Even casually speaking to niggas, it's like, oh, yo, where you from, man? Oh, I'm from the city. And it's like, people may not understand at first because it's like, it's New York City, New York. So, but niggas from Manhattan called their borough the city. And that might be some egotistical shit now that I think about it. Because it's like, yo, what you mean you live in the city? Like, but I understand that because I'm from here. But what it really means is Manhattan is like the mainstream part of New York City, right? It's where all the news is being broadcasted. You got Times Square and downtown and all this touristy shit. That's Manhattan. All the pretty lights, even though Manhattan dirty as shit, I ain't gonna lie. I'm sorry, y'all, but if you from the city, it's too many buildings and businesses and restaurants and all this all this shit going on. train stations. Yep, it's a lot. It's the hustle and bustle of New York City. Meanwhile, you got the Bronx. It's not as much of a powerhouse of a borough as New York City is, but you know what the Bronx got? A lot of fucking heart. The Bronx got heart and soul. The Bronx is hip hop. The Bronx is drill. You know what I'm saying? The Bronx is street art, DJ culture, graffiti, and there's a lot of shiesty shit going on in the Bronx. Damn near 24/7. Right? It's a lot of wow. That's what's happening in the Bronx. But to me, the Bronx is like the rose that grew out of the concrete. Like that's the story of the Bronx when it comes to the role that it plays in the New York City landscape. And yes, I know. What about Brooklyn? Brooklyn is there. Brooklyn is how I describe it. For me, being from the Bronx, like really, really far from Brooklyn, not the best to travel back and forth. It's far. Uh, how I would describe it, the couple times that I've been there, it's a lot of community in Brooklyn, right? It's a lot of black people in Brooklyn, togetherness in Brooklyn. I feel like Brooklyn people stick together. And yeah, you might have certain cliques like, Best Eye and all this other shit. I ain't gonna speak too much on it, right? But not everyone gets along with everyone. But for the most part, I say Brooklyn has a lot of community and togetherness. They're tough, they're gritty. You meet somebody from Brooklyn, they're loud and proud. All right, so and we need Brooklyn. We ain't on y'all niggas right now. Word. We on the Bronx, we on Manhattan, and breaking that down. Besides, y'all niggas got Michael Porter Jr. in the Nets. Like, what we really talking about? Nah, I'm just fucking around. I'm just fucking around. But yeah, so living in Manhattan, right? Manhattan gets expensive. It's a higher cost of living. It's louder, a lot of subways, a lot of crowds, constant noise. And for me, if I was like living in Manhattan, depends where as well, but for the most part, because of this like high cost of living, the rent is higher. You have a lot of limited space, you know, physically, for real. Sometimes it might be tough to move around. You might have to catch the next bus. You might have to catch the next train. It might be like a whole bunch of y'all squeezed in a small apartment. Like, it's tough, you know. If I if I'm like a family in Manhattan, I would want the youngest to start contributing earlier because it's like y'all live here too. You know what I'm saying? Like you got to sacrifice. You're in the middle of the city. You're closer to more mainstream things. You have more access. It's really like Manhattan superpower that is super accessible. So, like, let's say you want to get a studio in Midtown. That studio might run you like 2700 for a studio, bro. Versus like you could get a big apartment in the Bronx for that price. Huge. I mean, it could be a one bedroom, yeah, but it's huge. Or you could get a two bedroom, and then the rooms might be a little smaller, but it's, you might have kids or something, or maybe you got a couple and y'all like having your own rooms. I don't know. But for the money that you would pay in Manhattan, you could get something a little bit more spacious in the Bronx. But you gotta sacrifice. Because Manhattan is very nice. Man, you got a lot of lofts, you got a lot of rooftop bars, rooftop restaurants. You got the tourists going over the, I think it's like PhD, some type of rooftop bar, taking their cocktail pictures. And you live in Manhattan for the bragging rights. The reality is, it's going to test you every day. It's hard. If you work in Manhattan and you paying an $8 coffee every day, that's $40 a week right there coming out your pocket, coming out of your paycheck. But I get it. Every day you wake up, you go to work, you have a routine. That's an $8 coffee, man. So it adds up. You might have a $22 lunch. Like, we already talking about hundreds of dollars that could possibly be spent without you even second guessing it. Or maybe you gotta buy a vape because you like to vape. Maybe you need a pack of cigarettes. You gotta get a cold pack of beer after work to take back. Who knows? But just these things come at a higher cost when you're moving around like that. So Manhattan is nice, but it comes at a cost. Manhattan also has a lot of events. Manhattan has Broadway. Manhattan has the Broadway. You got shows, events, networking, exposure, music and media. There are opportunities everywhere, sometimes right around the corner. I'll never forget, I was just walking up 179 in Broadway in Manhattan, chilling, just doing my thing, coming out the store. I ain't lying. I probably came out the deli. Y'all know me at this point. Probably came out the deli, whatever I was doing. And I just run into Big Body Bass. I said, yo, that's Body? Shit, what up, baby? And we chopped it up, and it was like, yeah, at any moment you just run into somebody and you're like, oh, that's so and so. But you can't glaze too much. You can't glaze too much because in New York, you see somebody famous or you run into a celebrity, stuff like that. You can't be too aggressive because now you dick riding. Now you a dick rider. And don't be with your mans and them and let them catch you having a fan moment in front of somebody because yeah, you about to be the talk of the town for like the next couple months. You know what I'm saying? If you trying to give your friends a hard time, they gonna violate you. Damn, but you dick riding me harder than you dick rode fucking the weekend when you saw that nigga. It's like, damn, they still talking about. Yes. So, you got to be calm with your approach. Like don't be too surprised. And you might get a flick. You might get a selfie. You might get a picture. Who knows? You know? But that's Manhattan. Celebrities love Manhattan because it feels like rich culturally. But for real New Yorkers, the average New Yorker, it feels poor practically. Most of the perks they come at a premium. You're leaving something behind because, like I said, it takes sacrifice. But Manhattan is great for like creatives. You know, if you want to be seen, you got to be on the scene. Balls. You know what I'm talking about? Like, you want to be seen, you got to be up and about, popping up at local events. Like, might be a thrift store, pop up shop, you know, food giveaways. That's how a lot of people lose themselves because they try to be in the limelight every possible moment. Now let's talk about the Bronx. The Bronx, I love the Bronx. I'm from the Bronx. I was raised in the Bronx. It's really my home. And I'm proud of that. For me, I call the Bronx the underdog of New York. Why? Because the Bronx really wasn't supposed to, like, how do I say it? Like, it was really hard for you to make it out of the Bronx alive at one point. You know, if we talking about like way back then in the 1900s, the 1950s and the 60s and the 70s, there was a saying, the Bronx is burning. Why? Because the buildings were literally burning and it was a lot of rubble. And it almost looked like a barren wasteland. Like I could really feel for the people who are still around from those days. Um, but over time, the Bronx was was getting more modern, and now it's getting a little bit gentrified because that's what happened to minorities. You know, throughout the 1970s, like mid to late 70s, especially like South Bronx, it was widespread arson, building abandonment, and just like I said, it was like a wasteland. Hundreds, if not thousands, of buildings were physically destroyed and left to burn. Why? Good question. New York was in a crisis at the time, like financial crisis. And it got so bad that at some point the landlords would set fire to their own establishments to collect the insurance. Some other landlords were like, yo, fuck this shit. And they just stopped maintaining whatever business or property they had. So the property values collapsed. The landlords was like, yo, I'm not investing into this anymore. I'm trying to get that bread from the insurance, which led to poverty. You know, so the Bronx is burning is not just like literal fires, even though it was, but it's like symbolic. You know, like it came at a point where it seemed like, our this borough of ours is collapsing socially and economically, whether that's due to inequality or neglect. The Bronx was left behind. But outside of all that hardship and all that struggle and all that disaster, there was something rumbling, sounds of drums and music playing, which led to the birth of hip hop. Literally, came out the vagina was hip hop. Came from nothing. You know, it was a new movement going on. And I'm not being dramatic. You can look all this up. I think ESPN got like a mini series on it, like for real. This was like real shit. Um, so the Bronx eventually started turning around. How did it change? Well, after everything that was going on in the 70s, people started having block parties, DJing, breakdancing, and graffiti was like a creative outlet. And the city programs eventually stepped in. The government finally, fuck the government. They eventually stepped in and like you had a lot of community development corporations, aka CDCs. They helped the rebuild and the stabilization of certain neighborhoods, invested in the schools, invested in the parks, invested in infrastructure, and then like slowly over time, it improved living conditions. Fast forward, right, to the 2000s, 2010s, my era, gentrification, and now Bronx is where it's at now. It's like Starbucks and Popeyes and all of these chains is now here because, like I said, the Bronx is the rose that came out of the concrete. It was left behind, you know. Remember when Christopher Columbus supposedly found what he found, but then he found niggas? That's the same thing the government did with the Bronx. You know, they're like, oh, well, look what we found a borough for our taking. You know, no one's here. Oh, wait, there's niggas here. Well, oh, fuck it. Let's just, you know, put our claws into them. that's what that's what's been going on in the Bronx. But despite all that, the Bronx has heart, like I said. So a lot of the Bronx residents fight back, you know, because we not trying to face any type of displacement. No type of like, yo, I've been living here for 30, 40 years. What you mean so and so is trying to buy the building and I got 30 days to move out? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's tough. All these new businesses and the galleries and the cafes is hard, especially for like a young family or an established family. You know, entrepreneurs and like people who try to be professional, you can really get uprooted. Um, but it's a back and forth battle. But for the most part, today, the Bronx has a lot of community, a lot of respect. Every place, every borough has its crime, just like probably anywhere in the world has crime. But people rebuild and they innovate. And it's like a mix of the old and the new. You know, the working class neighborhoods, and you got like these trendy cultural hubs. You know, but yeah, so that's kind of like the two distinct differences of Bronx and Manhattan. You know, and I know it's like a little dark when you talk about the Bronx, but the Bronx is beautiful, man. Um, you know, it's big on block culture, the local, the local pride, you know, is foundational. We got Latinos, the Caribbeans, Africans, whole bunch of like legacy spots, you know, and they dominate without needing any type of like hype. It's still a lot of word of mouth, like, you know, niggas got niggas got golden crust. Stop playing with them. You know, Manhattan got the Michelin stars, but we got the bodega, nigga. And that's just some Bronx shit. And, a lot of restaurants come and go in Manhattan. There's Bronx spots, they stay open for decades. Uh, but Manhattan got good food though. I ain't gonna lie about that. So, how do they fare up against each other? Like I said, the Bronx probably you get a little more bang for your buck when it comes to having a bigger apartment. The streets themselves feel more open. The neighborhoods are walkable. Like most neighborhoods are walkable. I definitely could tell you about a couple places you definitely don't want to walk through, you know. But it has a community vibe. Like your neighbors probably know you, and that's big because when it comes down to the block parties, ain't nothing like a Bronx block party. And that's something that I don't think Manhattan could fuck with. Like the Bronx really be outside. Sorry. They got tiny apartments and sky high rent. You could rent a room probably for like $700, $800. Are you kidding me? It's crazy. You know, um, so jobs probably a little bit lower paying for like the Bronx and the Manhattan jobs. You need a lot of commuting, a lot of traveling, and it probably has higher paying jobs, but the more money you make, the more you got to sacrifice. So here's the final verdict. The Bronx is livable and it has its flaws, right? Like Manhattan is more like prestigious, but comes with a lot of pressure. So that's kind of my breakdown. I don't want to phrase it like it's a beef, but if you ask me who really runs the city, I got to give it to the Bronx. The Bronx is hot. It's like a hub now. The New York City is a melting pot. The Bronx is a melting pot inside of the melting pot. Like, for real. I'd say Manhattan is more diverse because of like the newfound like inspiration of wanting to invest into the Bronx because Manhattan is being ringed for millions, if not billions of dollars every day or every week due to the market and all that stuff. It's like, yo, let's go, let's move the focus to the Bronx and let's make the Bronx a mini Manhattan or just a bigger Bronx, however you want to look at it. So one thing that I'll say though, Manhattan has the Garden. And you know what's happening in the Garden? It's the goddamn New York Knicks, man. Clap it up for the Knicks. The Knicks have been on an absolute heater, right? They're playing well. They're like 4-1 in their last 5 games as of December 15th, December 16th, probably when this podcast comes out. Um, you know, they are on their way to the NBA Cup. They are on their way to face the San Antonio Spurs with Victor Wembanyama in them. You know, it's been amazing though. Jalen Brunson is leading this team like he's supposed to. He's locked in. He's like 33, 35 points per game the last like 4 or 5 games. Um, Carl Anthony Towns is playing like, holy shit, this is the guy we wanted to trade for. Um, he's been playing inside, outside. scoring, rebounding. But most surprisingly, the motherfucker's been locking up on a night-to-night basis. That loss against the Celtics, it was ugly. It was it was like, whatever. That was a bad loss. But when we spanked the Magic, Brunson had 30, 9 assists, passing the ball, orchestrating. And what makes the Knicks like such a New York ass roster is Josh Hart and Mitchell Robinson. They just gritty and grimy. They get to it. They get their hands dirty. They're not afraid to fucking bleed. You know? And then the Knicks come in the NBA Cup semifinal. Brunson dropped 40, season high. Big ass game. And we spanked the Magic 132 to 120. You know, Cat damn near had 30. OG dropping 24. And we punched our ticket to the NBA Cup finals. So, who is on the other side of this NBA Cup finals? The San Antonio Spurs, who as of late infamously have given the Oklahoma City Thunder their second loss of the season. Wemby returned for the first time in a few games, coming off the bench. My boy had 22 points. You know, 22 points off the bench. That boy, he was like, fuck that. I'm playing against these motherfuckers. I'm trying to go to the chip. And they did just that. You know, it was a great game. One of the best games of the season so far. And yeah, packed SGA and them boys out of here. SGA wasn't trying to see the Knicks anyway. And they were running. We got the best orange and blue colorways. Fuck out of here. Fuck out of here. MVP, nah, nigga. Jalen Brunson, what's up? That's the, you know, you gotta talk. You gotta talk like that sometimes. When your team is on your shit, you gotta talk like that sometimes. So honestly, Knicks Spurs, I got the Knicks, bro, and I got the Knicks like easy work. Easy work. San Antonio got a lot of guard play. You know, Wemby is back, but it's like we got Cat. Cat could shoot. So there's any way we could draw Wemby out to the 3-point line. You know, now that gives our slashers like OG and Mikhail time to, you know, start cutting them up from the mid range into the post, into the paint, like Josh Hart. But you know, if he's chilling in that paint area, then it's gonna be a lot of perimeter play. It's gonna be a lot of Jalen Brunson versus Castle. They probably gonna put Vassell from the Spurs on him. You know, it's gonna be a lot of perimeter play. But if I'm the Spurs, fuck it. Let him attack. Let him attack the paint and contest. You know, let Wemby contest. You know, you want to funnel him down there because that's also a defensive strategy. Where it's like, yeah, you want to lock him up, but it's like, yo, we have a defensive player of the year candidate on our team who should have won last year, if you ask me. But you know, he has some issues, so I don't think he qualified. But yeah, shout out to the Knicks. I'm excited. Hopefully they get this shit done. You know, so the next episode I could come and talk my shit. Because this will be very Knicks of them to lose. You know, they just, oh man, they just build you up so they can take you there. But no, fuck that. We got an alien to hunt. Oh man. So yeah, man, let's shift things, you know, back. I wanted to talk about some things that's been going on in the Bronx. So if you haven't heard, um, I believe maybe it was the 16th of November, right? A Bronx man, even though I want to call him a kid, because I think he's like 20 years old, was charged with a shooting of the current Jets player, the New York Jets, Chris Boyd. I think Chris Boyd is fourth year in the league. Not sure if uh, really his situation, but not to say I don't care about him or I mean I already know the guy, but I'm kind of more focused on the shooter. The shooter named Frederick Green, 20 years old. He was charged with attempted murder. He was shooting outside a restaurant in Midtown Manhattan, and he did not take a plea deal, according to prosecutors. So Green was held without bail, and his attorney did not immediately return a request for comments. So motherfucker just spazzed out and was like, I ain't talking to nobody. So he shot Chris Boyd in the abdomen just after like 2 in the morning. Uh, I think he was with other players from the team, and they got surveillance footage of this shit and everything. Like mask on his face, took the strap out the backpack and literally just pop, pop. He shot at the dude. Um, then he just left in the whip. He tried to cut off his hair. He left the city, threw his phone out, deleting his like presence on social media, like trying to lay low. But eventually he was tracked down by the U.S. Marshals, and they got him like some apartment complex. Excuse me, some apartment complex around Buffalo. So yeah, this is crazy because this guy is only 20 years old, and it's like heartbreaking, man. Like hearing about these type of things, you want a success story anytime a young black athlete makes it to the NFL, right? That's huge. Um, and for someone from the Bronx, right? Oh man, I can already hear it. The Bronx slander. But for someone from the Bronx to commit this type of crime, it's sad. Um, it's like it feels like, yo, when is this stuff ever gonna go away? I think the Jets had just signed Chris Boyd like 2025. So it's crazy. Like homie was like, yo, I'm about to ball out in New York. And then you just get popped twice by a 20-year-old. He's like, damn, I should have stayed my ass on whatever team he was. I think it was like the Cardinals. Uh the Arizona Cardinals. Like they came to New York and got popped. Like, that's fucked up. Um so yeah, this was November 16th. And yeah, no, this was crazy, man. I just wanted to point that out because it's like as much as one tries to drive positivity in the community and like not erase the past that the Bronx has or ignore the crime rate or ignore anything negative, you try to like induce positivity. Like we try to promote positivity because for me, it's always like this looming shadow over the Bronx of like there's neighborhoods and gangs, and even though I don't really know about, I don't think gang culture in the Bronx is as big as before. Could be wrong about that. Um, but you want to promote the positive because that's where the frequency of the borough is headed for. Um, apparently, like they were arguing over clothing. Something about like homie was cutting his ass about what he was wearing, and then maybe they started just cussing each other out, and then that pretty much led to him taking a gun out and shooting at him. For the most part, I think it's being reported that it wasn't a robbery or like planned attack. Like it just seemed like impulsive and personal. So, as young men, you kind of need to carry yourself with a certain respect. And if you can't get it, then some of those young men will force it out of you. Say hello to the blicky, man. Like, they'll demand that shit. Um, so it's like almost like street culture, and motherfuckers gotta start taking accountability, because there's like this violence in the nightlife, certain districts. It's triggered by minor ass motherfucking conflicts that end up going way, way left because of guns, you want to say? Or is it because of how motherfuckers is being raised? 20 years old, you a YN. Oh, man, the YN takeover strikes again. So maybe it could be like how you're being raised. Now, maybe for sure. There's too many examples. I'm pretty sure Frederick Green, the shooter, didn't wake up thinking like, yo, I'm gonna be on the news tonight. You know, maybe he just grew up in an environment where respect and reputation is like sometimes more important than life and death, my nigga. For real. He sees these like big brolic NFL niggas probably with some chains on and shit like that. He feeling like, yo, you ain't shit. He's feeling like, fuck all that shit. Fuck my upbringing. Fuck education. Fuck getting a career. I got a rich lit nigga right in front of me. And I got everything in my power to take it all away from him. So I could be up. When I come back to the hood, hey, look at this chain, nigga. Yeah, I just robbed it off these bitch ass niggas. Some NFL nigga. Soft ass nigga thought, so I want to back out on him. So, I'm not really sure, like, when it comes to the survival codes and shit is different, man. Even Nas said it, New York State of Mind, like, niggas be running out the block shooting. Young niggas. It's been a thing. So yeah, man, I just wanted to point that out. Prayers to Chris Boyd and shit. Hope you get better, bro. Bronx gotta do better, man. So, in other news, New York City winter is officially upon us. New York City winter humbles everybody, bro. For real. Rich, broke, it don't fucking matter. It's gonna expose who's really built to last in the city. You know what I'm saying? If you out here taking public transportation, waiting for the train in 20-degree or even below that type of weather, that's some real character development you about to get. Like that's some real experience gains. You know what I'm saying? Like the winter is gonna reveal your real commute struggles, you know. But I ain't gonna lie, bro. I fuck with the winter because the winter fits be fire, bro. Like when I'm stepping out with Timbs and some cargos, like all blacked out with the sweater underneath and a nice black puffer jacket, I feel like I'm ready for whatever. You know, it's gonna hide the salt stains and the sadness. You know, niggas is stepping out with designer coats, and you just see like real New York shit everywhere. The North Face, the Timbs, the Shiesties, the ski mask, however you want to call it. Like winter in New York City almost like turns you makes you want to take out the winter in New York City turns winter in New York City almost turns your wardrobe into like survival gear. Word. You know what I'm saying? Then you in the apartments, it's cold. That heater may not always hit. You may not have the luxury of the heater always hitting. So you know that old radiator is gonna overheat, that shit cook. But we live in the age of technology. I know some of y'all got y'all space heaters, portable heaters. Fuck that. You gotta make it work how you make it work. Ain't no way we paying this much in rent to still be cold inside. Like I'm wearing a hoodie right now recording this podcast because it's brick. You know what I'm saying? Like you got a big apartment in the Bronx, it's spacious, but you know it's a draft coming in. It's like, yo, it's cold. It's a lot of space for that heater to spread throughout the house. You know, the Manhattan apartments, I know y'all be sweating over there because it's hot. Got a tiny box and it's hot. Uh, but you know, good luck to everybody out there this winter. Man, what's going on with my voice? Pause. You know, good luck to everybody out there in the public transportation and that transit dealing with these delays. You know, them buses got the snow tires on, so shits ain't moving as fast as usual. You know, you might be standing cold and wet, just waiting and shit. You know, Uber drivers is charging them increased percentages because it's inconvenient. Motherfucker, you out here too. You know, but nah, shout out to the cab drivers and you know, I hope everybody stays safe out there, man. For real, like it's tough, bro. Coffee is almost not even an option. Like it's mandatory. It's medicine. Coffee, soup, anything like hot. You know, the chopped cheese is hitting way more in the wintertime. Word. Like if you in the crib, I don't even blame you, bro. It's ramen season. We gotta stay warm somehow, some way. You know, just make sure you get food that actually fills you up, you know, and watch out for your mental health too. Because winter depression is real and you know, this is a cold hearted city sometimes. I like to refer as Gotham City. So that winter depression hit a little bit harder in New York City. But you know, stay locked in. If you really like that, keep going to the gym, keep doing the shit that keeps you motivated and uplifting, you know. The sun sets at 4:30. So, you know, you trying to be back at the crib by 6 something, nice and safe. So yeah, man. And just keep grinding, man. You know, the heating bills might spike some shit you gotta pay for you ain't see coming. Some winter clothes are expensive. Maybe you still got gear from last year, last 2 years. You gotta update the wardrobe. There's not so much to do outside, so you do save some money by staying indoors. Sometimes it should make me question, like, is it even worth is it even worth it, You can't enjoy being outside, But there's still things you could do. You hit Bryant Park, go see all the shit that they decorate down there, 14th Street. Hit an ice skating rink with Shorty. Like make it a vibe. Rockefeller Center, you know? Ice skating rinks for days. That's what New York still got shit to do even when it's cold. So when you see people outside still trying to enjoy themselves in this freezing ass weather, it's because they trying to get by and they willing to sacrifice for a temporary boost of happiness. You know what I'm saying? The tourists, though, I don't think the tourists be trying to stick around in the winter. Like, you got some of them, but they probably come from like Greenland and Europe and Switzerland where they used to this cold ass shit. But them tourists that trying to get a tan, yeah, nah. This ain't for you, my heart. This ain't for you. This shit is brutal. And when you come out of it, when the springtime hits, it's like, yes, I made it. I made it. And the sun comes back to reward you and give you a hug, man. So that's what it's all about, man. But yeah, man, episode 3, Straight Bars Podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I definitely did. It was great. I had a great time recording this episode. Um, so shout out to all my New Yorkers. Shout out to people listening not from New York. Fuck with y'all. Fuck with my people from Philly. Thanks for tuning in. Feels great, man. People is not from the city tapping in. That's a great feeling. So, yep, another episode in the books. Straight Bars Podcast. Like, subscribe, share the video on YouTube, share it to everywhere, man. Follow the Instagram as well. Like I said, help your boy get a fresh pair of Timbs. Like I said, it's winter season and, we here, man. Stay tuned for the next episode and have a good one, guys. Peace.